After the massacre of 1622, Virginians embarked on more than 2 decades of efforts to make their colony secure. No more 6-year peace treaties. To raise and employ the forces needed to drive Indians permanently from English settlements. Right. The Indians were here, but we have a better system. I think we can win the battle. I support them. We might do a video, this is on early warfare, but we might do a video series on Indian atrocities within their own bands, what they do to each other. They began by restoring martial law and raising volunteers for expeditions against the Indians. Those expeditions for feed fights, conducted by infantry equipped with matchlock muskets, marked the beginning of the First Tidewater War, 1622 to 32. A war fought to gain the space and time needed to save the colony. For long-term security, the leading men of Virginia relied on citizens in arms. They distributed weapons to every colonist. This is very, very different from the European model, which is keep muskets and weapons and stuff out of the hands of the rabble. Not only will they kill each other, but they could revolt if they have weapons. In America, weapons were handed out to everybody. It was an armed camp. They required military service of adult males. That started in 1624, 2 years after the tide. First it was volunteer, and then they said, okay, if we're not getting enough, then we'll make it mandatory. And they began compensating those on campaign by working their lands. So the army or the government, however, gets people who aren't on military campaign to go work the farms of the people who are. Beginning in 1629, they also made a determined effort to clear all Indians from the peninsula between the James and York rivers east of Jamestown. You can't tell what they're talking about if you just look at a map of the United States in a large scale. You have to close in pretty close around that area and see the map of the way the rivers and like it says, they're on a peninsula, and they're trying to get all the Indians off of the peninsula. And to secure that peninsula by building a 6-mile wall linking the rivers near Jamestown. A 6-mile wall. We'll just build a wall. They did this in ancient Babylon to cut off the area between the two rivers. They stopped northern invasions by building a big wall, or tried. They did that in China, the Wall of China. Everybody knows about the Wall of China. They did this in Britain. How far does that wall stretch across the top of Britain? I think that it's 75 miles. Hadrian's Wall on the top of Britain. They did it in Jamestown. They did it on the island of Manhattan with a wooden barricade wall. That's only 5 examples. I can't think of any more right now. Interesting. By the end of the first... Oh, wait. There's the new Israeli Wall. There was the Berlin Wall. There's 7. My God. By the end of the First Tidewater War in 1632, Virginians had secured the center of their settlement and were beginning to expand once again. 1632. So they're set back 1 decade. Now they're back to the point where they can grow again. They're secure. They've got the Indians around them decimated. They go on regular raids. Everyone's trained. Everybody has weapons. They live in fortified communities. Over the ensuing 15 years, Virginians so improved the raising and use of their forces, they so contrived to harness the energy of a growing population, that they greatly increased their security. In 1634, they organized Virginia into 8 counties and made each responsible for maintaining a militia company. The new companies were to protect the counties when attacked, provide men for expedition against the Indians, and support expeditionary forces with food, equipment, and compensatory labor. This system proved its worth in 1644 when the Indians rose again, massacring about 500 colonists, comparable to what was killed last time. In 1644, 1622, so it's been 22 years, it's been a generation. They rise again. In the Second Tidewater War, this one only lasts 3 years now, 1644, 45, and 46. In that war, Virginia drew men from the county militia to launch coordinated offensives against the Indians, traditional feed fights to destroy villages, crops, and stores, and force the Indians farther from English settlements. To keep the Indians at bay, the colonists built 4 forts, 4 of them. They were blockhouses with protective palisades. from the head of the York River to what would be Petersburg, and they imposed a peace that excluded Indians on pain of death from all the lands between the James and York River east of the fall line. So these are our forts. We catch you in this territory, we kill you. That's all there is to it. We don't care why you're in there. Virginia, with a population of more than 8,000 Englishmen, was at last firmly and securely established. 4 decades of Virginia, that's in the 1840s, so they're down to 1,200 people. Now they're up to 8,000 Englishmen. And then there's probably women and children, I assume, besides that. 4 decades, for 4 decades, Virginia's defense had depended on the efforts of nearly all adult male colonists. Masters, servants, and slaves. Everybody. After the Second Tidewater War, defense became the responsibility of only a portion of the white adult male population. That's how secure they had gotten their area. Virginia's leaders, feeling relatively secure from the Indians and increasingly apprehensive over arming servants and slaves, decided in 1652 to restrict the militia to free men or servants of undoubted fidelity. So they were arming slaves and servants, and they said, okay, we're secure enough, we don't need them with guns now. This more exclusive militia, still organized by counties, was able to provide adequate security against Indians and servants for more than 20 years. Then in 1675, Indians from Maryland attacked the north and the west frontiers of Virginia, killing 300 colonists and creating turmoil throughout the colony. Sir William Berkeley, the aging royal governor, persisted in relying on forts and mounted militia ranging between forts to protect the frontiers. So not only are we going to have forts, we're going to have militia just on patrol on the border, on a policy that was wholly inadequate. Frontiersmen with exposed estates and other grievances took matters into their own hands. They joined together under a wealthy young landowner, Nathaniel Bacon, defied Governor Berkeley, and attacked any Indians within reach, friend or foe. Some of the Indian villages were more friendly than others. And these, when Bacon and his friends rebelled, they didn't care. Friend or foe, all Indians died. That's what the rebellion consisted of. Not marching on Virginia and attacking the governor for screwing something up. They said, if the government isn't going to kill the Indians, then we will kill the Indians, and we'll kill every single one we see. That's Bacon's rebellion. Thus, fighting Indians blended with rebellion in Bacon's rebellion of 1675 to 76. Not until Bacon died and regulars arrived from England was order restored. But after it was, and after the regulars went home, Virginians reverted to their policy of relying on an exclusive militia to control neighboring Indians and rebellious colonists for the remainder of the 17th century. Heard about Virginia, let's hear a bit about Massachusetts now, up the way. The purposes and patterns of settlement, in particular the cultivation of tobacco on scattered plantations, had done much to shape the Anglo-Indian warfare in the 17th century. Scattered plantations, right? That did have an effect on warfare. By spreading across the land, Virginians had provoked desperate struggles for territory within 15 years of their arrival at Jamestown. And living as they did on scattered plantations, they had soon come to rely on county militia, expeditionary forces, and feed fights to clear their land of Indians. In the 17th century, New England, up north quite a ways of Virginia, where purposes and patterns of settlement were different, Anglo-Indian wars were somewhat delayed, although no less desperate when they came. We skip just a bit. These early New Englanders tended to live in villages, interspersed among Indian villages. We see we remember what happened when that happened in Virginia after the marriage of the chief to a daughter or something like that. They lived in villages interspersed among Indian villages in each of the 4 English colonies, Massachusetts, Plymouth, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. With few exceptions, New England communities avoided serious trouble with neighboring Indians until 1675. And when serious trouble arose, as with the Pequots of Connecticut in 1636 and 37,